So everyone, this is Tabatha Bennett, and she was here 14 years ago to
sitting where you're at,
to where you guys are, right? And so here we are. And you were both Air Force, I believe, first,
yes.
And then you came to UWT, and you always said you wanted to make movies.
Yes.
And they formed a production company, and I assume you work in the Seattle area, or do you guys,
We're now an independent production company, but yeah, we do a lot of Seattle, wherever the film takes us, wherever the commercial takes us, or wherever the video takes us.
Yeah, and I did see too that you like properties that like you could shoot in here. That's really cool. That's good.
Yes.
That's good for everybody to know, all the screenwriters.
I'll tell you how to. Who's all my screenwriters? Put up your hands.
These three.
I'll tell you how to back into your script for a reality type filming that's going to be less costly.
Neat. I don't know. I mean, do you guys want to direct to, or if you do, that's a really neat idea to learn from someone, and maybe somewhere along the way, interns
I'll go through
can
all
be.
of that.
Yeah, awesome. So in any case, this is Tabatha, and I realized, that we might want to ask her some questions, but I thought I would do some starting out ones, and since it is about how did you get from here to there? Mm-hmm. Do we want to think about your time at UWT, and is that where you decided to make this move that early, to know that you wanted to be filmmaking?
So I'm going to go backwards just a little bit to understand my background, to understand where I hopped to filmmaking. Mm-hmm. As she was saying, my husband and I were both Air Force. We met in the Air Force. I started off in missiles, and he started off in fiber optic cable splicing and things like that.
Wow.
We met, whirlwind romance, and then later on, he's always loved CGI. Mm-hmm. I found out that he was stationed in Germany for a while for his job, and I'm going to date ourselves a little bit, and this is going to be weird. So computers. When CG computer graphics was just kind of starting with SIGGRAPH and stuff, he was already kind of into it. He was already a programmer. Mm-hmm. But then he kind of, put that aside as we were deciding what we're going to do. And he actually is the one that came up with the idea of filming, production. And his was always, I want to do storytelling, but I want to do educational stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do educational stuff. Who wants to do that boring stuff? But then I found out it's actually quite enriching to do educational stuff. Mm-hmm. But I always, when you're working for a company, you start to drink the Kool-Aid of that company, whether it be the military. I've worked at Zulily, T-Mobile, Zillow, and AWS. You start to drink that Kool-Aid, and you start to forget where you're at and who you're at. Mm-hmm. Well, being in the military, I started to forget, and all I thought was recruiting, because I ended up being a recruiter later on. But then, a happy circumstance, he cross-trained into public affairs, went to what they call DENFOS, which is the best school that the military offers to all branches. He learned to operate the camera. And then I learned to recruit that you have to tell a story. Mm-hmm. You can't just market and go, join the military and let me sell you death. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately you can't. It's not sexy, but when you show people special forces and all the cool guns and the stuff, everybody's like, oh yeah. And going back to our time, I'm not gonna lie, my husband and I joined the Air Force because of Top Gun, which was the best Navy commercial in the whole entire world.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, through our journey, I found out that they do that on purpose. There's a special unit in the military that works with that. But I was assigned to a special forces squadron, and it was a really bad manning level. You're supposed to be at 100% manning level. This was before pre-Iraq, Afghanistan war. Again, I'm gonna date myself. And the unit was at 10%, and I was told to get this unit at 100% within X amount of time, and it was under a year. Well, the brochures do nothing. And in this world, I found out why. But basically, I was like, I have to think outside the box to show people what these people do, because I could tell you and it's not gonna matter, but I need to show you. And I looked at my husband and said, how are we gonna do this? And he goes, I got my DSLR camera, military issued, let's go. And he literally started going out with the Special Forces guys, and we remembered Top Gun, and we said, how can we make this cool? So I did a little screenwriting at that point, but not enough to really pass her class. And then at that time, we found out what the moving image can actually do.
That's right, yeah.
And where I really leaned into that was towards the end of my military time. I had been medically discharged, meaning, you know, I was 100% okay, but they broke me, they bought me, now they get to pay me to retire. Darn. And I started looking at the job market. So I was always so busy not being able to go to college. Also, there wasn't distant learning colleges at the time. Also, being in the military, especially when I was working missiles, there was no way I could get away to go to an actual butt-in-seat brick and mortar college. And that was the only way that you could, because I had such a weird schedule. So I started looking at the job industry, and I said, what the hell am I gonna do? Oh wait, everybody wants a bachelor's degree, and they won't even look at you. So you can't even get past that computer if you didn't have a bachelor's degree. And I was scared because I'm like, I don't know what I wanna do. I really didn't. I'd done a variety of things in the military. I'd done a variety of things as a human being before the military. And then the more I looked at it, the more I looked at communications courses. I said, you know what, that's kind of an interesting fit at storytelling. And I'm very used to storytelling. And, but most of the communication courses that I found were like in LA, in other places. And I was just like, I can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, we had one back then. Yeah. You know, we did, yeah.
So then I found out the UW-T, and I did some vetting, and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's like a degree and a film track and a learning track, because I knew I wanted film, but I also didn't know how that was gonna pan out in the real world. Yeah. Because this is not Hollywood, let's face it. Yeah. You know, everybody in here is probably aiming for Hollywood, which we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, that's where coming in and seeing an interdisciplinary communications kind of world really made it where we were like, holy crap. There's all kinds of teachings here. There's all kinds of learning in the communication. So much so that I told my husband about it, who was dead set on going back to his programming. I was dead set on it that I told our daughter and our son. In case you don't know, we are the first UW-T family that literally went to UW-T together. So imagine you sitting next to your mom while you're taking your test and or taking notes or trying not to fall asleep. I'm like, wake up. And my husband, daughter, and son all had the same class too. It was quite a riot, so.
Yeah, I don't remember like all of you in one class, but I do remember different students, different combinations in different classes.
It was true. Yes.
It's really neat.
Yes. Yeah. And I think so the best thing I could say is to be a good storyteller, don't just think film. You know, you need to think writing. You need to think magazine. You need to think social media. You need to think every piece of the global communications puzzle. And that's where I found that I could do that here and also kind of hone in why something's important. I even took PR. I don't know if Troy Brown is still teaching his PR class.
I don't know. I haven't heard that we have PR, so I guess PR? Not. We might have like an independent person coming in if they can get enough students who want to take that, like even at like make 6 to 8, they would probably get a person to do it. Yeah.
So I would just say the more knowledge about communications you have, the better you're going to be at your craft. And you might find that you have to kind of shift and move anyway, because it's a changing industry every day.
Yeah, I meant to ask you about AI because, you know, as a writer or someone who's trying to be a writer, you know, in that industry, or even what is it going to do to these really, at least the screenwriters and
Yeah.
some acting.
Oh no, it's going to change for every part
Yeah.
of the industry. And actually, I'm a weird unicorn. I like calling myself a unicorn. I like tech and I like creative, which is a weird blend because technical people are very black and white. It's very binary, you know, on off. That's it. Me being the creative, I'm like, there's shades of gray and purple and everything else. But understanding that and mixing that with technology has really proven to be a great formula at that point. And this is from somebody who was scared to death of computers. I kid you not. Computers were just coming out. My husband was talking about CG, and he's like, someday AI is going to take over the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'd actually watched a movie that the AI Synthians had, and it wasn't Terminator, had killed everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I learned computers can't really do much without you as a human being. In a lot of my career at the corporations I was at, I didn't get to learn a lot about computers other than editing and doing stuff. And if you think that you're just going to be a screenwriter, you're not. You're going to be a director, a producer, a editor, all the above. So that's going to help your screenwriting as well. If you're going to actually be a filmer, director, you're still going to have to learn everything. So just get used to learning everything. You have to know it to be great at your craft. But when I landed at Amazon Web Services, AWS, I learned so much technical things that I was just in the forefront of it. Sure. I was in the forefront of it as ChatGPT was coming online, as all of these companies are aiming for that AI world. And matter of fact, what I did is instead of being afraid of it, I embraced it. I started a online series live stream broadcast, AWS On Air, where we literally kind of deep dived into those programs, how people can use them. We addressed a lot of the AI. AI is coming. It's not quite there to outdo the industry yet. The way I actually use AI, it's helping me write an app. And I'm going to say the one thing Vincent Huang said at NVIDIA is your job is going to go away. But if you learn AI, you will still have a job. So if you are not a techie person and you're like, no, there's absolutely no way I'm going to touch AI, I'm going to say then you're going to be left behind. You're going to have to embrace it. You're going to have to find your spot. I have a lot of people in the film industry right now, including actors. And it's not just here in America. It is globally that you have a lot of the crew out of jobs. A lot of the jobs are going away, not just because of the filming going away, but it's because you can do some things with AI, like screenwriting. Maybe you have an idea of what you want your film to be, but you're really horrible at screenwriting. You did great to pass her class, which should get you some good things. But it is daunting to sometimes screenwrite. I found that it helps me get through that. Like if you have writer's block, who doesn't? I'll go to ChatGPT and say, you know, I don't know what to write about this individual that I could show, because we all want to like throw up our words on the script, and it's telling, not showing. So I'll use ChatGPT to kind of fine tune that, get it into a way that, you know, okay, it makes sense to the audience. CG, computer graphics, special effects. That is where I was talking to Zach. I was watching this interview the other day, and this very popular special effects guy in Hollywood, I forgot his name. He said the way of special effects in Hollywood is going to shift. You're going to be doing special effects for a YouTube content creator and get paid more from them than you are a studio. Think about that. Now, if you ever look back at the history of Hollywood, it started off as an independent company in its own right. got big like a dinosaur, and now the dinosaur is kind of, going away, and it's going to go back to the indie world. Distribution model is broken. I'm just going to let you know, for all your hopes, dreams, and goals and fluffy monsters out there, to get your film out, you're going to have to self-produce like we did.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we were last of working with a distributor because distribution models, again, are broken. If you ever went to Best Buy, how many here actually rent a DVD or a Blu-ray?
I buy them.
Okay, and you buy them. Okay.
Only because I need them for my class.
How many of them bought them at Walmart or Best Buy? Yeah. Where's the Best Buy market at right now?
Like, what was that old Blockbusters?
I love you.
That was when I was a kid.
Okay.
I know, and there's those days of the Friday special. Those distributors aren't able to get those out anymore to make money. That model is broken. You're no longer going to have a physical distribution model.
Yeah.
So that means now you're going to have digital.
Streaming.
When we did our feature film, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a minute, we had to really hustle and shop around for somebody to distribute it. Whenever you are talking to a distributor or sales, putting it out there, you have to think of your, you have to think of who they're working with and why. And if you're just a low little guy, they're not going to work with you. But we finally found a distributor, and it ended up on digital. Go figure. They're not able to do that anymore. When we were to Cannes, so in the effort to sell our film, we went to the Cannes Film Festival. I actually, Cliff and I worked there. Cliff's my husband. We actually did a working vacation where we went to Cannes and worked at the whole festival, and that gave us an opportunity to shop the film around. The problem is they were even saying too that they were having a difficult time distributing. Now, overseas, the government pays a lot of money into their film industries and their theater owners and things like that, whereas here it's all capitalism. It's gonna be, you're gonna be releasing it on YouTube.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Or not even that, like everything will go to like Amazon platform or all these other platforms if you're lucky, I guess.
I'm gonna say this, Amazon platform is easier to get on.
Really?
Because I don't know if any of you ever paid attention or if you're old enough to pay attention. When Amazon started doing films, they actually had a do your own submission. Did you know that you could actually write your own book, publish it, and make your own money? I've done that 3 times. I have 3 books on Amazon.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people who do that. Yeah.
You could do that. You could do the same thing with your film.
Yeah.
And like ours got on Tubi. You can Tubi, Hulu. Those ones are a little bit more difficult. You do have to go through.
Yeah, they're pretty. They have a lot of high-end stuff.
They do.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
do. But what you're going to see is the more, and I didn't lean into YouTube quick enough. I really dismissed YouTube for what it was. Now, keep in mind, I saw YouTube when it first was created, and nobody was really watching it. I think Ray William Johnson was like the major first one that I had happened to see on there, and I was like, okay. It has defied the model, it has defied everything, because you are an individual that can create as much content as you want. Now, with that said, back in the 80s, I want any of you, have any of you watched any 80s films? Okay. Now, what do you think is different from those films then to today, besides the crappy CG?
Okay, never mind.
Oh, that was it?
You can't use crappy CG.
Okay, never mind. I'd say, okay, what's the right word? How can I say this? Okay, how can I say this?
Okay.
Let me think about it.
I'll let you think about it.
I think currently seems a lot more action-packed, like
Okay.
a lot more stuff happening in one film rather than just a slow plot that like builds off of it itself and like it's able to like appreciate that. Now so that it has so much going on just to feel something towards the film, which more doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd say, well, I don't want to say less, it's more black and, kind of black and white, maybe, more like there's there's a bad guy, shoot him, like that, sort of, like what she said, with more action. Like, you know who's the bad guy, while more modern movies try to be more nuanced.
You can't have a bad guy anymore.
Kind of, yeah, like sort of like that. Disney
The Hayes model is dead. The Hayes model used to be where you had a definite villain, you had a definite hero, the hero won. But yes.
I think the camera movement, like, cuts got a lot shorter throughout the rest of the movie. With a lot of the blockbusters.
Cutting time,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you put that all together, it's called storytelling. In the 80s, the story was the story. The CG, the camera movements, the coloring, everything was designed. Even the fast action or slow action, the build-up, was all really to get you into that storytelling. Where now today, that storytelling is gone. All you see is Thor with his hammer, and you're like, ooh, that was just a really weak story.
I do think, like, outside of the cinema though, like a lot of short film people like on YouTube have gotten really creative and used technology to expand it, and uses like those old techniques of filming long shots and close-ups, and then their own little like style to it has been like very, like, you can see the improvement in film, and I think it's really cool.
And that's where I'm getting at. So to answer that question and to kind of wrap that up, AI, and let's be clear, generative AI, there is a difference. Generative AI, which is generating new content, artificial intelligence, will help you with that storytelling. But you cannot rely on that for the story itself. So like she said, if you're going to be on a YouTube and you're going to do content, which iterate as many times as possible. I'm not a Mr. Beast fan, but the one thing I love about Mr. Beast, he kept going. He reiterated. He's just like kind of like that raptor on Jurassic Park tapping at the fence to see where he can get in. If you don't have a story, you're not going to keep the audience anyway. So that's where generative AI, that's where everything that you're learning here and on the outside is going to point you, and that's what's going to get you paid. So think of this, advertisers are always having a hard time getting to you in front of your eyeballs because you say, skip ad. So you're finding more and more YouTubers putting the ad inside of the film or the video. You're also, of course, if you go back and watch some of the 80s.
Product placement, I did it myself.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's how I paid for our film, was product placement. You sneak it in that you're drinking that Coca-Cola.
And you get free for the crew, you know, you get like a ton of stuff. So that's one of the jobs I did before I went to film school, actually.
Exactly.
No, it was probably after film school.
And that's exactly what we did. I mean, our feature length film. So I'll hop over. Our son, who was also here, went to go get his master's in cinematography at UCLA.
Yes.
That was a pain in the ass, but all of the students were paying, and do not do this, okay? I'm just warning you, do not do this. We're using their student loans to pay for their student film that they had to do. And these students were paying $80,000 to $100,000 for a short.
Oh my God.
Not a whole feature length, but a short. Now, for those of you who have student loans, I want you to pucker up and go, oh, because that's a lot of interest on that student film.
Yeah.
When you could have made it for way cheaper. So now we'll go back into it for the screenwriting students and all of you. When you are writing a story, you have to back into the location. So when we did Paper Dragons, first of all, I was not the writer and I was not the director. I was a hungry producer. We were a hungry company and wanted to really get to work with somebody that claimed They had been in the industry for a while. So when you're screenwriting, and we ended up doing this, he wrote the script, we looked at the locations, and I'm sitting there going, how are we going to do this? So one location was a gas station. Do you know how hard it is to find a gas station willing to actually be filmed? Very difficult. There was an ice cream shop. Very difficult to find these locations. Now, if you're in LA, you'll find them, but they're like, I want $1,000 a day minimum. Here in Puyallup, Tacoma area, that's not necessarily the case. But when you're writing, when you're doing any kind of video, any kind of filming, whatever, you need to back into your location. So really think about your locations. Yeah, that might be great that they're on a ferry going across the Puget Sound. But when you're filming it, you can ask Zach, that is a nightmare to film because you have the wind. You have all of this stuff going on, so you're gonna have to do a lot more in the post-production to match that up. What we did going to brand placement is there was a brewing company, I don't know if they're still here, in Tacoma. Well, we had to have beers for the film. And what was interesting, I'd never done brand placement before.
Okay. Yeah, well, I hadn't either when I first did it.
Yeah, and you're afraid. You're like, oh my gosh, this person's gonna say no. It's like the worst sales job ever. But, and the great thing is I asked him and he was just like, can I see the script? Okay, here's the NDA, non-disclosure agreement. Please sign it so you're not talking about it to everybody. I should have actually said, please talk about it to everybody, knowing now what I know. And he read it, and as long as the people were responsibly drinking beer, he's like, hey, I'm okay. They're not partying, being stupid, you know, killing someone. Okay, you know, because nobody wants their brand associated with that. There was a fair scene where you're at a state fair. Let's think about that, people. I actually went to the state fair and said, can we film here? And weirdly enough, they said, sure. I'm like, oh, thank you. That's cool. And allowed us to shoot at the fair and put up the necessary things to warn everybody. If you're walking in this shot, you're being filmed. If you don't want to be filmed, don't walk in the shot. The one place that they did not have in the script that I had to go back into, and this is where I'm saying backing into your script when you're writing it, an office scene. An office scene. Now you think that's easy, but do you know any office buildings that actually look like a major office? No. So you have to, I literally had to get them to kind of change that a little bit. So we took a room and made, not quite like this, but we took a normal room and made it look like it was some crappy, you know, customer service job that nobody wants, to show how unhappy this person is. So if you're thinking when you're writing, how is this going to be shot? And this is where I'm saying you need to know exactly every person's job that you're going to be working with. How is this going to be shot? How is this going to be told? How is the actor going to do it? I also, like I said, I had to find the gas station. Luckily enough, I found a gas station. And the guy was like, it was an independent gas station, and the owner's like, can I be in it? I'm like, oh yes, matter of fact, you could be the clerk. He's like, okay. I had a catering company because I needed a cafe and I needed a restaurant.
Yeah, I have read some of those accounts of the shoot, and everyone, the Journal News and, you know, I forget which other articles, but I'll post them for people,
And you know what that was? My PR. I reached out to them.
That's really good.
If you don't tout what you're doing, nobody's going to just all of a sudden discover you. I'm sorry, this is not the world of you're walking down the street and oh my gosh, you're the best screenwriter. You have to really learn to sell yourself. You cannot be an introvert in communications because that is all that you do. So understanding where you're filming. And then I'm going to add into, I saw one of the questions and I didn't think about the answer until now. How did the UWT help me with that? When you're in the military, they do teach you pay attention to detail. And the reason that is especially in the Air Force, let's say you're 18 years old, you join the military, You are an airplane mechanic, you forget a rivet, you forget your wrench on that plane. That plane's carrying a bunch of equipment and a bunch of people overseas. It goes down. They find that rivet broke and you didn't notice it. You will be responsible for those people's deaths, that loss of government property, and they will not treat you nicely. You will probably go to jail. I didn't realize how much that means in communications. And what I mean is, when you're watching YouTube, you're watching a movie, you're watching or reading news, you are a consumer. That's it, you're a consumer. You're not really digging deep into what the story is, why the story is the story even correct? And I'm gonna tell you, with generative AI, you're gonna have to start asking that more and more. Is this even real? Because most of it's not.
Yeah, I mean, even, my husband was saying the other night, he's like, I swear this is total AI, this movie I'm watching, or TV show.
Yeah.
And he said, you can just see that something is off.
You can see something's off.
It's working, and it's on, I think it was Netflix.
Oh, I'm gonna have to watch
Yeah,
that
I'll ask
one.
him what it was, because
Yes.
he can watch TV because he's on a sabbatical.
I want to be on a sabbatical.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to really dig deep. And what I learned here is look beyond the story. There is a story to the story. What is that story? Why are they telling you that story? If you're screenwriting, why is that character doing what that character's doing? What is their backstory? Why do they have that scar on their leg as a kid? Like, you literally have to create that whole persona of that individual, that whole background, and you're going to have to use that in your filming, because that tells a story. And what I learned the most through here in every single one of my classes was there is more to the story. She knows, I loved her class, Film and Human Values. The reason why I loved it is sci-fi, I don't care what it is. The story tells you it captures the moment in time of what's going on in history. What's going on in the world around you. I just watched the film, Mickey 17. Now, what was quite interesting about that film, and I'm going to keep this out of politics, but it's important to understand the politics. It is nothing but politics.
Interesting.
And it is nothing, and you would love watching it.
I will. Okay.
You're gonna have to watch it. It is nothing but politics. And if you watch it deeper, and I got this from the first watching of it, there was so much to that story that it was kind of weird. My husband and I walked out, there was a South Korean couple that walked out, and they were talking, and what they didn't know is I love South Korean dramas. K-dramas are my favorite. And I learned some words, and I heard them, and I started talking to them in Korean, and they're like, and we got into a discussion because they were like, well, what does that mean? So we got into the discussion of a lot of the meaning of everything in Mickey 17, and every single thing, Bong Joon-ho, and I probably say his name wrong, has thought of every detail, and every little thing has a meaning. And I learned that about magazines, and I've learned that about news. I've learned in news, you spin the story, watch me over here, because I'm gonna do this over here, and you're not gonna see I'm doing this over here. And I learned that there is more to everybody's story if you just take the time and get out of that consumer of communications and get into that, what is this going on kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, someone just said, I didn't expect taking this class. I said the essays were very interesting on this test, and one of the students said, well, I thought we were going to talk about actors and maybe some camera angles, and sometimes you say that, but this is very different. And I was like, well, we talk about film in an educational context because it locates us in a past that we don't experience ourselves.
Yes.
Right? And films give us that. And even if we have a film that is trying not to say anything about the time it's being made, they still tell us about the time it's being made, where it's being made, the thought processes, the way people read things and understood things. And so that's where it's a critical enterprise. It's a critical thinking enterprise, and that's good for us, right? And learning to write about things like that is also really helpful. So, I mean, I basically said, there are some classes where you can learn how to make movies, and Zach can even tell you it's calm, David Kuhn's class, but that's kind of not where we are in this track. This is more liberal arts and critical thinking.
Well, if I could even say that, it's learning to make a movie, and I don't want to deflate it in any way. Pointing a camera is pointing a camera. Understanding the lenses is okay, but what are you saying with it?
Right.
Have any of you watched Citizen Kane? No. Okay. That is the Claudia Gordman, Professor Gordman, who was here prior.
Who retired just a couple of years
She was
ago.
a hard ass, but she was great. She was. She taught me a lot, but the one thing that she taught us is we weren't necessarily studying camera angles or anything like that. We were talking about auteurism of a director. And we started talking about Citizen Kane and the angles of the film. You're not going to learn that in any class here. You're not going to learn anything until you actually watch it and you actually understand it. So when you watch Citizen Kane's, those counter scenes where it's really just kind of off-putting, it's kind of diagonal and up, it's really irritating. He does that on purpose because that's a moment that it's like a chaotic feeling. You're supposed to be irritated because you're supposed to feel like the actual individual being filmed. You're not going to learn that here. How you learn that is by studying film. Our son Hunter, who worked with Zach for a while, the one thing always amazed me is whenever he goes to film something, he will get an idea of the filming style. He will go pick movies with that filming style. He will work on those camera angles, and then he'll go shoot. But that's not something, I mean, he went to UCLA for cinematography. He actually dropped out because he's just like, this is stupid. I'm paying all this money, and I'm not really learning anything. You can learn more out here by just taking that camera or your phone. I mean, who doesn't take their phone and go, what's going on? Oh wait, I want to look at the snail differently. And you're on the ground and people are like, what are you doing? Taking a picture of a snail from his world, There's nothing in a class, or there's nothing in an actual class out there that's going to teach you those film angles other than you taking a moment and breaking down the film. My husband got wowed when he was, I forgot whose class it was. I think it was Gorman's or yours. I don't remember. He had to break down a scene on Django and what those opening credits mean. Yeah, it was Gorman. She would make us watch the opening credits, and so would you. Because opening credits of a film, which I've learned, and I don't know if you learned yet either, tell you what to expect in the film. And each frame tells you something. There is so much information in that frame. I don't know if any of you watch that YouTube channel, Every Frame a Painting. He's no longer doing it, but go back and watch some of them. Every frame has a story. And I took that, and we took that into our film as well, where the character in Paper Dragons is working at this call center. And basically, if none of you watch it, it's okay, go watch it, it's free.
Oh, good. It is on.
It's on Tubi.
Oh, good.
I get paid because of the advertising. Watch the ads. That's the only way I get paid. And it's also on YouTube Prime. Oh, I'm sorry, not YouTube Prime, but Amazon Prime.
Okay.
But in filming it, that's what I remembered is every single thing matters. And what I did is in this call center, I made it as horrible, as humanly draining as possible. You could feel this individual's hate and self-esteem just getting sucked down from his uniform down to the lanyard, down to the gray things around him. It's just, who wants that job? And the film is about an individual. Well, I'm going to go like this. It was pitched to us as a horror.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to tell you this really quick, and then it'll make sense. When you're writing a script, there's the script video, there's what was shot video, film, and then there's the post-production film, how it actually comes out. There's actually 3 films being shot. The one in the post-production, if you didn't do your whole job right in the first 2, it's going to be something different. So my sci-fi became, or not my sci-fi, my horror became a drama. But we made it work. And how we made it work was, it's the story about a husband who is divorcing his wife, who has a kid, who also he has a job.
Yeah, it's a very compelling trailer, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Hunter did that.
Oh, good.
He's what we call working poor, which who isn't working poor?
Right.
He's trying to raise a son he has no money to feed his son. He has no money to even take his medication. So it's really designed to be disjointing of what's going on in this man's life to make him so compelled to want to bring a weapon to work. Now, I don't advocate for weapons at work. What I advocate is for educating ourselves to understanding why. We all say, oh, it's some psycho. No, something happened to that psycho to snap. What makes us snap? What would make him snap? And then at the ending, the director wanted us to show explicit where he's shooting people, and I said no, because then you're giving the audience the ending. I want the audience to come up with the ending, and that's where, as a producer, I got to make that call. And so at the ending, we literally put it the way we did because it's for you to decide what happened. It's for you to put in your mind how and why and where. But understanding the angles, understanding what makes that character do what they do, all of that was from this, and really deep diving into film, not as a consumer, not as a watcher, but as a professional that's wanting to be a professional kind of thing.
Yeah, I thought, the whole idea of the child and the father, they were so engaged with writing the book, the story. I mean, like, all of us can relate to that. Like,
Exactly.
That is something that is so cool. And so that the other character shot it down was like, I'm like, oh God, I know this movie. My parents wanting me to go to law school because I got in.
Yeah.
And I got into film school. I'm like, who wouldn't go to film school? But they did not like that.
They did not like
No.
that. The weird thing is when I was at Amazon Web Services doing product marketing for all their products, I actually met somebody who watched my film, and she's like, oh wait, you're Tabatha Bennett? I'm like, what did I do? And she watched the film, and it was interesting to hear it from somebody who I didn't know, to hear their take on it, and it was, the fact that she said, wow, that was really complex, and I felt so bad for the individual, and I understand now. Never do something just to do something just because you know that the audience is expecting it and wanting it. Do it because you want to tell that story. Do it because in your script, that's what that character feels, because that character is really you. I think the best thing about writing, and I'm going to get a little dark here, is if anybody has ever bullied you, you get to kill them 1,000,000 times in your script. 1,000,000 times. You forever eviscerate them into history and kill them as many times as you want, as many different ways as you want, and it's quite fun because then you don't have to worry about that bully. But it's very, and I hate saying this word, it's a horrible word for me to say, but
Cathartic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See, I suck at that.
And therapeutic.
It's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that's one thing that we're looking at doing probably in the next year or two, is we're actually making a nonprofit for military individuals, allied forces, military individuals, because when you're in the military, whether you're deployed or not, you have to go through a lot of stuff. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on, and even in your own lives. And we're wanting to work with them and teach them how to either, do comic books, to do film, to do writing, whatever, to get those memories, to get those thoughts out, to be able to go as dark as they need to get that release, but in a healthy way that you know, they don't feel like they've done anything other than release it.
And I've had students, that's exactly what they've done in their scripts. I mean, it's really powerful stuff.
It is, and that's reality. And
Yes.
if you
Sorry,
want to
I'm
step
not
away
looking at
from
you guys.
something, you know, just remember the reality of it.
Great. Well, we can say, do you guys have any questions for Tabatha?
I don't bite.
I have a question in regards to like short film, maybe as a student and stuff. For some of the roadblocks that we've come along is like skill sets like audio and kind of starting out like not really knowing how to work with that. Is there any tips that you have for like resources or just things to avoid in regards to?
Yeah. What I would say, I don't know what your guys' equipment looks like now, but if they have any field recorders, any audio field recorders. If not, I'm going to be honest, use your cell phone. You can get little, and this is how I started with it too, is you can get those little mics that plug into your lightning part of your cell phone and get the little dead cat fuzzy thing on it. That's what it's called, is a dead cat. And use that for audio as a separate audio device. And the reason I say that is in-camera audio is great, but it's shitty. That's why I have on a microphone. He's getting audio from here, and he's getting audio also in the camera because he has a microphone on the camera itself. So you're getting two forms of audio. Now this form of audio right here is now going to be its own channel, which means you can work with it better than the camera audio. So the one thing I have learned is do a marker. If you don't have a clapboard, do that. Do not forget it, even if it's like redo, you know, cut, go back to your places, okay, in action. Do not stop doing the marker, hit something, snap, because whenever you're syncing it up in post-production, it's gonna sync it fast. Matter of fact, all you have to do if you're in Premiere is highlight the thing, go over here to, I forgot which one it is, but it's like sync it up, it'll sync it up immediately. And then that way you have a clean audio dialogue that doesn't have a lot of wind, a lot of noise, things like that. The other thing that you can do is if you have an actor, it's the technical term called ADR. You can have the actor come into a quiet booth and re-say their lines. And then that way you can sync that up as well. But again, you're gonna clap that so you can sync it as well. So that's the best thing about audio. The other thing I'm gonna tell you about audio is don't forget the background sounds. Because if you're walking across the street and you don't hear a car go zoom and a car just went by, that totally takes the person out of reality. So if you have another friend that can come with you, tell them that you will give them a PA credit and have them actually capture that sound with their iPhone or with their Android. It's cheap, easy. You're going to find that everybody does it. But you have to think of those elements. You even have to think of the elements of if you're trying to record, let's say in a room like this, and the air conditioner kicks on.
Room tone.
Room tone. Room tone, if you don't know what that is, everybody, and I always love the audio engineers because it's like, everybody quiet, room tone.
But you can hear it if we're not talking. And so you need this to make the space seem real.
Also, and I've also used it to cheat. Because maybe they said something, or maybe there was a noise that I didn't want. Maybe a dog was barking, and you see that peak audio part, and you see that there's nothing kind of matched up with it in your video part. I'll cut that out and put that room tone in, because that way it knocks that out. It doesn't sound dead. And what's interesting, take it out, take out room tone, take out everything, and just cut it. And it's like it sounds the weirdest. So room tone is always really important. Be aware of things. This is where that paying attention to detail matters, and people don't really pay attention to this. When I was at Amazon, Amazon Web Services, I had these VPs that we're going to show our new server, and you can have it in your basement. What we're going to do is we're going to have these 2 VPs talking on a ferry on the way to his house in Bainbridge Island, and then you're going to show it. And I'm like, that is the worst idea ever. And they're like, oh, but why? I'm like, do you know how much wind is on a ferry? Do you know how much noise is on a ferry? And I have nowhere to record you just, ad-libbing and talking. So really think about your dialogue, where they're at, what they're doing. Think about that environmental audio that you're wanting to catch. And think about what is the mood you're wanting to put people in. And then don't forget your music. People think I can't afford music. There's a lot of free stock out there. And matter of fact, if you really want to have some fun with audio, I go listen to those stock audio. I close my eyes and I'm like, oh, there's the Western, there's the big film, there's the horror. You start to just kind of play with it. But take the time, listen to your audio. If you have any friends that are musicians, tell them, hey, I'll give you a credit. Can I use your music? And we do that a lot too. We'll use, even in our trailer, we are working with an independent artist. The one thing that was interesting is I had to learn to work with the licensing houses. You cannot, just so you know, you cannot use whatever music you want. You have to license it. Now, if you're not putting it on YouTube and you're doing it in your home theater, nobody could say anything. But the minute you distribute it, put it online, and you didn't get that license, and I learned that there's all kinds of rights to those licenses, more than I could probably explain in a class. You have to get that. So go talk to your friends, go get some music from them, make them sign a form. Do not ever film somewhere without that location signing a form, without that talent signing a form. If you have a dog, cat, gerbil, snake, whatever, that owner has to sign a form. This is really important, and that's the crappy part about filming that nobody likes to do. But you have to, because you did all that work, and all of a sudden now you can't show it. You just wasted your time, energy, money, and all the above. That's great that you get to watch it at your house on your living room, but you don't get to make your money back, or you don't get to even get credit. And the one thing is when you're in filming, you are aiming to get credit and noticed, because you want people to come watch your stuff. Not that I want Hollywood to find me. I've been to Hollywood so many times, they still haven't found me. It's because you don't want to be sued. And I'm going to give you a good example. We actually had a contract on Paper Dragons. And the contract was a brand new contract to me. And I thought it was solid. We got the film done, and it was really difficult because the writer/director wanted to go different ways than what he shot it. And in the end, it ended up being a court battle. So I thought I was going to be fine. I take it to my lawyer, and my lawyer says, I really wish you would have had me look at this before you signed it and did all of this, because it would have saved you time, energy, and money. Luckily enough, I didn't have to pay him anything, but when somebody's coming after you for $100,000 for a film that you paid $40,000 for, it's pretty jarring. So I'm going to tell you this: do not go online and get the stock. Don't get the stock contracts. Lawyers do not cost that much. You think that they do, but they don't. They will give you your time. They'll create stock contracts for you that really kind of go towards what you're needing. But I'm just going to tell you, take the time and do it right before you even step foot on that filming. Sorry, I know that was a lot of answer for you, but.
Well, I want to point out that she has a great film that is a kind of takeoff on Wong Kar-wai. Which I loved. So really well done, you guys. I know you were on it too, Barbara, right? Yeah, and so they did it in another class, and it was really neat.
Oh, cool.
Really neat.
Send it. And you know, I will leave. She will have my email address and my phone number. We're always looking for people who want to learn. We're always looking if you want to be an intern. I'm going to not lie to you. Right now, with us starting, I decided the corporate world was not my cup of tea anymore. It taught me a lot. It taught me TV commercials. It taught me working with products, sponsors, online, stuff like that. Now I'm like, no, if I'm getting paid to do that for them and they're making millions off of me, I'm going to do it for myself. And with that, we do have some internships that if you want to learn something, you have to be very clear what you want to learn. We can work with you. It's not going to be paid, but I'm also going to make sure that you have time if you have like a part-time job or something like that. We have 2 interns that have different part-time jobs, and one of them is special effects, because what she found out is that's great that she has a college portfolio, but nobody would hire her because she had no experience. And that's what you're going to run into too. If you don't have experience, they're going to look at you and go, yeah. The other thing that's really kind of fun for you who want to get really seriously into film is you can apply for it's kind of an internship for the Cannes Film Festival. It's called the American Pavilion. So a little bit of fun fact about that is when you go to Cannes, there's like this international row, and all of these people are talking to you about why you should film in their country. So they do a lot of like events and things like that. Well, the American Pavilion at the Cannes Film Festival is there to offer any of the film people, actors, directors. I met Ryan Coogler there. I met The Weeknd there. So you get to actually meet people.
That's awesome.
And what they do is, in return for you working there, they give you X amount of time to talk to different actors or go to different screenings. When we went in 2018, we saw the screening of, what was the Wesley Snipes? Was it
2018,
Klansman?
what was it?
Klansman or something?
I don't know that he would.
Like KKK?
That one, yeah. We got to sit down and talk to him and listen to him. I got to walk Topher Grace around and talk to him and listen to his stories. But it's a really great experience, because if you just go to Cannes, first of all, you can't just go to Cannes. You can't get a ticket. You have to be invited. So it's either you work or get invited. Well, I'm not quite the filmmaker yet to get invited, although I did put my film in there. They said no. But it's a really good way to actually get to talk to people and do some real one-on-ones and learn about that as well. And like I said, they in turn give you the opportunity to do what you want to do. If you want to do PR,
That's neat.
they're having you do PR for the events, things like that. And if you want more information on that, I can send that as well.
Yeah, very cool. Sounds very cool. I went to Cannes, but the festival had already ended.
No.
I was just there with my friend bumming around for one summer.
It is the most interesting experience. If you get a chance to go to Sundance. Sundance is moving. It's no longer in Utah.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Colorado, I think.
I think Colorado.
But if you have a chance to go to any of those larger film markets, even though it says film festival, it's a film market.
Yeah, true.
American Film Market down in LA.
Okay.
It costs, but it's, again, well worth it to learn and talk to people. That's where you get to actually talk to the buyers, sellers, distributors of films, and what they're looking for and the reality of filming. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a lot of good stuff, really and truly to think about. I know that you guys all have different, interests in the class. I know for some of you it's an elective, some of you are arts, media, culture, some of you are comm. Really, it is a really interesting industry, but it's a tough one to break into. That's what we can say. So taking classes is another way to,
Yes.
really learn more and more about, the whole way of movies as an art form. I mean, that's what we try to do. And as a cultural product, as you said,
Yeah.
it's exactly where this course is too.
Yeah.
And so interesting. It's nice to have Tabatha back. I guess we should say it is our 12:30, so can we give her a nice round of applause? And honestly, everyone, I interned for years and years. I mean, okay, it wasn't that many years. I did get paid after a while, but really and truly, anything you can do. I ended up making production boards at least
Yeah.
for a producer, because my professor taught us how to do it, and he said, you can do it. And so some other guy asked me to do their production board, and that's a craft that I assume is being digitized, right?
It is, but I actually know
hear
that.
some-
It's and the fact that I know how to do it, and you're on field and your computer isn't working.
Right,
Yep.
right, okay, yeah. So, there's all sorts of things that are interesting that you don't know about, and it could be fun to be an intern.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.